I'm Benjamin Ryder, and I am in Calgary. We're with Cooperative Communications. We are at Big Data Analytics and the Cloud 2. And I'm speaking with Ron Murch. Ron, you wear a couple different hats. I see one of the hats here is the Haskayne School of Business. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. I was a faculty member, senior instructor with the Management Information Systems area, and I formally retired about 5 years ago, but I still continue to teach a course in Management of Innovation in the Executive MBA program. So the content of this particular conference and course, of course, is very germane to innovation and technology management. Yes.
And so you're like, how do you manage innovation? I mean, innovation is a messy, creative process.
Exactly.
So how do you have someone overseeing that?
Well, it's interesting. If you want to come join the course, it takes 4 months, and we go through a series of experiences. But in essence, it comes down to the way in which you manage the people that are involved. If you can find good ways to encourage innovation and to capture value from it, then you're on the right path. If, on the other hand, your corporate organization has the value system that discourages innovation and no, don't do it your way, do it my way kind of approach, then you wind up with some serious problems and difficulties as you get down into needing new ideas and nurturing new ideas and so on.
Do you think innovation has any negativity? In the sense, like, could innovation be a bad thing?
Of course it can. Of course it can. As a matter of fact, one of the best examples that I use, or a good example, I guess, I have a nephew. Maybe he's even watching this. I don't know. But he is involved in electrical power management. And while he was going to school in Ontario, he had an internship with the Bruce Nuclear Station. And the last thing I wanted was for him to be innovative while learning how to run a nuclear power generating station. So there are, there are some potential consequences. It's a little bit like risk. Risk has two dimensions, but when many business people use the term risk, they tend to refer to it in a negative sense. Like, we want to avoid this. What's the risk that this will happen and damage us? There is also a risk of being overly successful and overly positive, in that you can generate so much demand you can't possibly satisfy it.
And so, I mean, success can be a bad thing.
Yes.
I mean, like, you can definitely mismanage success.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I could, but that's not what this conference is about.
Well, I think, because we're talking about analytics, right?
Well,
and so analytics can be predictive. Right, so you can take a look at analytics and start to analyze risk management, success.
Yep.
And so I kind of wanted to steer the conversation in that scope, because what I'd like to talk about is it possible to use computers to take that equation out so that it's almost automatic?
Oh, you mean to play life like a giant video game?
You got it.
I guess there's quite a few people that are trying to work on that as an issue, because it's primarily problem solving. The level at which we deal in the business school essentially is with our students are aspiring business leaders. And so for the processes which are predictable and repeatable and well structured, you don't need a strong leadership influence to execute. You need good skill, competence, and capability. And so the people in a leadership role constantly are delegating those kinds of tasks because they are repeatable and there's some knowledge you know how to do them, and other people can learn how to do them. It's the new tasks that become a challenge. And if you're undertaking something new and it's wildly successful, you have to understand whether there are limits to success, what those limits might be. They could be technological, they could be societal, they could be ethical, or there are other dimensions to look at and so on. And so some of the data gathering as you're undertaking the process is very helpful. You can describe the situation. If you have good analytic techniques, you can make reasoned projections, which is where the predictive analytics come into play, but that's still the future, and something could sneak up and disturb that future. And that's where the leadership understanding and the experience needs to come into play to say, hey, there's a possibility this could be a problem. Or alternatively, there's a possibility this could be extremely successful. We don't have enough people to handle that level of success. How are we going to deal with that?
I mean, it's not often that people are concerned about being successful. So can you talk about perhaps your involvement here in this event and how this event's going?
As a matter of fact, I actually wear two hats here. On behalf of the university and the business school, I've been sort of helping attract students to come to attend. I've been recruiting some presenters and business leaders and so on with whom I have some regular contact and involvement, and also colleagues as well. There's a variety of university colleagues who are here presenting in a variety of disciplines: medical technology, computer science, business classification, that sort of thing. My other hat is actually from the business school. I'm also the academic liaison person with the CIO Association of Canada, the Calgary chapter, and I work fairly closely with them on their programming during the year. And when this opportunity came up for the CIO Association to be involved as a sponsor, they're actually the host, one of the host organizations today. Mm-hmm. And when that opportunity came up, they automatically said, "Oh, well, you're already there with the university. Why don't you help out and create some good collaborative context with the CIO Association?" So I've been doing that, and it's actually been quite good. It's been, for me, it's been a really interesting blend of organizational, academic, and practical, experiential exercise. It's more than an academic conference. It's more than just a vendor presentation and so on. There's a lot of good dialogue going on. So it's quite good.
So, most of the people here are students or professionals within tech industries, right, in some capacity. But some of the members of our audience might not be accustomed to that world. Why would those people be interested in the future of analytics?
The people who are not here?
The non-analytic people, the people who didn't necessarily go to school for this and don't necessarily have a job within this field. Why would those people be interested in where analytics is going? Or why should they be interested?
I don't know that there's necessarily a simple answer to that. There may be a variety of answers because we would need some analytics in order to explore it. However, having said that, any individual is going to be impacted by decisions taken on a variety of life-influencing choices. Where should we build the next street? How should we manage environmental intrusions, which would include some of our energy industry base in Alberta, but could be mining in British Columbia, it could be forestry in the boreal forest, it could be insect management, a variety of environmental intrusions and so on. The data collection on that and the disciplined analysis would lead into social policy decisions, governmental policy decisions, funding decisions, career choice options, those kinds of things that will impact what you would call garden variety citizens, or what Ralph Klein used to refer to as, I've forgotten, Martha and Henry, which was very, and so the influence of the people who are mired in this discipline or these disciplines, their influences will percolate out into society. We had a very good presentation this morning from a series of medical researchers who are making inroads into what can we do with disciplined health-related data to improve the quality of life for the general citizenry. And those citizens aren't aware that this research and collaboration is going on, but they're certainly going to be impacted by it.
I think it's a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, all the people I'm talking to, everything that I'm learning, the phrase that I keep saying is the future is here now. I mean, we're talking about these things that you only saw on TV or you only saw on Star Trek.
Yeah.
And now it's Star Trek is here.
Well, to a certain extent that's true, but it's always been true with science fiction writers Jules Verne predicted submarines and the voyage to the moon and a few other things. So visionaries are not difficult to come across. And there are probably a number of visionaries, perhaps in smaller circles, attending this particular conference. One of the presentations last evening was from a grade 12 student here, Kaylin Shell, I think her name was, who participated in the robotics competition that was held in Calgary. And she gave a dynamite presentation here. She's in grade 12.
Children building robots.
Yep.
It's
and her story about the impact on the young fellow that joined their team, who came from northern Alberta on his own with no team, just showed up at the competition and so on. I thought it was very inspiring, but that experience has made a game-changing impact on all of the students that were involved in that competition. Well, so you're absolutely right.
I mean, what's fascinating about that is we're seeing a lot of the professionals here who have spent a long time in their industries, in their education, getting experience, and now we're seeing younger people who are being paired with them, who are giving all of this opportunity. So literally you can download all of this information into a really young, charismatic, intelligent, creative person, and then just let them go onto a career path.
Absolutely. And they will be the ones when these resources, the resources that you're recording and putting together, and they're available on the website, they're part of the group who will be accessing that for use in their student career search information. What might be exciting that I could be involved in later on. And actually, that's one of the reasons why in organizing this conference, there's been some very deliberate exercises of networking where students have been deliberately targeted to attend and to come and present and talk about what they're doing with the people who are coming to the conference as what would we say, practitioners, in order to ensure that the students understand that there is a future for them and for their passion in this area.
So would you say this conference is important?
I think it is. Oh, yeah, I think it is, particularly in the context of province building in Alberta. We have, 3.5 million people in the province. Toronto has 5 million people within the municipal boundaries of the greater metropolitan area. GTA, they refer to it. I'm from that area originally. I've been out here for 43 years, but that's okay. And so we don't have quite as many people, but we've probably got maybe 100 times the geography to cover. We need efforts like this in order to keep the momentum up, to keep the social energy going, to keep the directions established and fresh, and to keep the creativity renewed.
So we're going to have to go to break here. We don't have a lot of time. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Not really. There's 2 points, I guess, that would be worthwhile noting, and one of them is that we've had some very, very interesting keynote presentations, particularly from Cisco and IBM, about work that they're doing, which is going to impact the future in the next 10 years, the social future. And the other thing is that I think that several of the really important issues that are starting to come forward, our governing and regulatory bodies need to pay really, really close attention to those. So that would be our provincial governments, to a certain extent our federal government, possibly also municipal as well, in terms of nurturing where those directions can be taken. Because if they don't get on board with the defining frameworks, society's going to go in a different direction. They're going there. The governments have got to be.
And so, is there a concern there?
From my point of view, there is. There is an old leadership adage that says, "Which way are they going? I'm their leader. I must get in front of them." And this group is that group. Is that herd that is going in that direction, and we desperately need good, coherent leadership.
And I think because, as you were saying, like the group's going there. Yeah. Like, I mean, this technology is coming out. Like there's the gates open. Yeah. This is a for sure thing. Yeah. So now what needs to happen is, professionals, academia, and government need to get together and just start agreeing to where it's going. Because otherwise, what's the risk? What's the risk if we don't?
You mean the negative risk?
Yeah, like what's the risk? Yeah, what's the negative risk?
There's two sides.
It is
this,
two sides.
Right?
What's the negative risk or the implications if we don't plan the future of this?
Somebody else will be defining our future. That's the biggest issue. I would prefer to be more able to influence my future and my children's future, my grandchildren's future. The positive risk is if we view this as an investment rather than as an expense, then we are going to be sensitive to how to get the value from it later. Because you always make an investment with an expectation of value, but you make an expenditure with an expectation of cost.
All right, well, thank you very much for the interview. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to cut to break, and when we...
Join the conversation next year as more cities become data-driven. Become a community partner. Contact us at info@abctech.ca.